All right, we're going to get started in about 30 seconds. Just appreciate people coming on board, coming online. This is going to be a power pack 20 minutes. So, really excited to have you guys here. All right. All right, so welcome everyone to this is our second our second portion of the commercial Q&A series. Today we're going to be talking about winning distributor focus. Okay, particularly when it comes to when you're not the largest player in the market. Usually, when you are the largest player, you probably go direct. But even when you're not, you need to figure out a way to make your brand your distributor's priority. And it becomes very important. I'm talking specifically about the US market, but I think these principles are actually going to work anywhere in the world. My name is Link Brown. I am the managing partner for Get Global. We help small and mid-sized businesses really drive growth in the American market, but also around the world as well. So I just want to start off by giving you a little bit of our history. Again, this actually tends to be a topic that people have a lot, particularly, well, it just depends on what your strategy is. Sometimes you're selling direct, sometimes you're selling through distribution. And again, it's really important that we make sure that we get the distributor's focus when we are selling. So I want to give you a little bit of my history so you know. I've been a part of every part of the really the distribution cycle. I've sold as a distributor. I've been sold exclusively through distribution. I've managed distribution networks. I've actually tried simultaneously going direct and distribution in the same region, and built distribution networks globally. So I try to look at this from all different perspectives, so that you can have a very clear understanding of what it takes to be successful with your distributor. And today, again, we're talking about focus. I know that having been on both sides of this, there's actually lots of frustration that comes both from the distributor side, where the three U's, you feel like the supplier isn't committed to you, that they give very unrealistic expectations, and then you sometimes feel unsupported. And then the same thing for the supplier. You feel like there's a lack of access to your clients, particularly if you have the wrong distributor there. Maybe you have low sales, and what usually precipitates low sales is that you actually don't have the priority or focus from that distributor. So today I want to work through this, and I'm just going to give you a very simple framework for how this works. Okay, this is the way I build distribution networks for my clients. This is how we help them manage them. But if you want a distributor to work for you, the framework is simply this: that the distributor spends their time where it's the easiest to sell and it's the most support. Or actually, I used to call it the least amount of headaches. Right? It doesn't mean that you actually have to have lots of resources, but you have to make it somewhat headache free. And I'm going to go through 6 key points that are going to help you do that. Make it feel very easy to sell, even if it's a complex product, and to make sure that that distributor feels supported. Very important. So there's lots of misconceptions when it comes to this kind of framework. People think, oh, well, a distributor can only sell simple products, or they can only work with really short sales cycles, or they're just order takers, right? And that's not necessarily true. And it's the same thing when it comes to support. We think that if we're going to support them, then there's going to be almost disproportionate resource allocation based on versus the return that you're getting. Suppliers feel like they have to do all the work, and they find distributors that don't take accountability. Now, I have to be honest, a lot of this, a lot of these problems come from the fact that we start incorrectly. We start with our distributors incorrectly. We have the wrong mindset. But in truth, a distributor can cover any product, no matter how complex, with the right structure. They can do long sales cycles as long as you put the right processes in place. They are not just your sales team, but in the region. They can also be your marketing, your customer success, your marketing content and market research. Um, and you can use limited resources as long as they're very focused resources. And if you find the right distributors, set the right expectations, if you have clarity from the beginning and you communicate through it, you can actually win. Okay, so what we're going to do is we're going to go through 6 key points for how you can win distributors' focus. Okay, um, and we're going to try to go in depth. If you have questions, please feel free to ask them in the chat. No problem. I do have a couple of questions at the end, and if we have a little bit of time, I'll actually answer them from some questions that I've gotten earlier. Okay, so um, I really believe that a lot of this in working with distributors starts with your attitude. It starts with the way that you as a supplier works with a distributor. Many times we think the distributor works for us, when in truth, the distributor works to get sales, and they don't necessarily care where it came from, right? And so we have really the wrong expectation, and many times we treat them as a member of our sales team when they're really not. They don't report to you. They're a very volunteer army. They have other options, and so it's extremely important to just remember, as I said in the previous slide, that the distributor is not just part of the sales process, but they're part of the marketing process and even customer success. And you'll realize that you can get so much information out of a great distributor relationship if you make it easy to sell, if you give them the support that they need. So it very much starts with your attitude, and a lot of the attitude actually begins with the expectations from the beginning. Okay, so just being crystal clear about who you are. We have a 6-step process that we use for even bringing on a distributor. But that's for a different live stream. But one of those key points is you really do have to set clear expectations from the beginning. Um, your attitude has to be one that reinforces pipeline growth and progress, not just the end result. The end result will come with consistency, and you probably already know that, because no matter what region you've grown in, it took time, it took energy, but it really took consistency and growth in the pipeline. That's really what you're going to be looking for. The attitude has to be right. Um, the attitude actually has to be towards that distributor, that you have to show them that you want to go the extra mile for them. That's a very American term. So that you want to put in extra effort for them, that it feels that way to them, even if it's not so much. And you'll see through these next 6 points what I mean by that. And then you have to show them that you're willing to do whatever it takes to win. You need to succeed let's say you're the head of sales or you're the distribution manager. You need to succeed. And so you have to teach them what it takes to win, and then help really build that confidence inside of them. All right, so let's go to the next one. And most people already understand this, particularly in the beginning of the process, when they start with a distributor, is that you go with them to sell. But I think there's a few things that people miss. Okay, so very important to go in the beginning. Why? Because first, it establishes direct contact with your clients. I have a lot of clients seen the scenarios where the supplier loses contact with the client in the market. They might have the names and numbers, but they don't get feedback from them, and that's extremely important. Um, when you go with a distributor, it actually shows your ability to support them, and particularly in the beginning, it shows them how easy this process can be. You already have success stories and a way of selling Not necessarily the process, because the process will be slightly different in different regions, but you have reasons why clients buy from you in your current region. You can in your current territories, you can take those successes and go with them and show them that, oh, okay, I can be successful selling your product, right? You can take all that away. Also, when I talk about going with distributors, this is where I think people fall short. First is having very distinct roles in the sale. A lot of times, the distributor is just left to talk about the price and maybe do some introductions, but I think that's a mistake. I think you have to, the distributor really has to lead the process, and you have to help them lead the process beyond the technical specifications, really getting to that emotional piece. You need to do pre-call planning with your distributor. This is all the time. This needs to be a part of the process that you do. Very important. And then you need to set expectations of what's going to happen. It's kind of like when you want someone to be successful. A success isn't necessarily just getting a sale. A success is actually being able to predict what's going to happen and then be able to adjust to it. If you set the expectations that someone is able to really understand, that the distributor is really able to understand what's going to happen in the process, that will give them more confidence to go out and talk to the next person as well. You want their focus, you want their action moving towards your business. Okay, so set expectations when you go with them about what's going to happen in that sale, because there's only so many questions and only so many scenarios you're going to come across. It builds confidence. It's going to build trust between you and that distributor, and it's going to help you start to build the system. And that brings us to number three. You have to create a sales process, a sales system with your distributor. Okay. So, what I would do is after I go through on the calls with the distributor and show them how it's done, see get some feedback. What I would do is review, and then I would create a sales process for success. One that I've used is where, again, the distributor really acts as, like I said, the main salesperson and does all of the, uh, really leads the sales process. And where we would come in, or our person would come in, really as that only as a technical resource, not to be a salesperson, but really just to be that credibility and technical resource for the client. Okay, so you want to create a sales process. You want everything to happen in a very predictable way. So you can see it as there's a lead that comes in. There's a certain amount of information that's built, not just technical, but also emotional needs of the client. There's a certain amount of information that's sent to the client. You need everything to work in a very predictable way, so you're not always restarting from the very beginning. It's important. You even want to create packages, like I said, so it's easy to communicate. And very important here is you have to empower the distributor to gather information, their own information, and set up opportunities for success with the right people. Again, this goes beyond just getting technical specifications from the client, but actually getting to the real emotional reasons and getting the right people in the room so that when you come in, you can be successful. Another part that is really important in the sales process is that you don't try to bring your European or outside US like way, or your local way of selling into the local process, because it doesn't translate all the time. The principles do, but not the actual functionality. And so this is very important to start to create that sales process. Go with the client, or go with your distributor, and then review what happens to start to create the sales process behind it. The fourth is to work in their environment. Now, when I say work in their environment, in the distributor's environment, this is basic things, obviously, like creating sales literature that's adapted to the market need and culture. Many times, the messaging that you use in one region, let's say in Europe, does not work in America. The same benefit is still there, but it has to be presented in a new way. So be willing to change. So work with the sales leaders, work with the distributors marketing team as you get experience to help adapt the literature. These are low cost, by the way. I wouldn't be printing them. These are digital assets in order to help the distributor. Again, adapt it to the local market. And again, it goes beyond translation. Don't throw it in Google Translate and translate it. Actually think about the messaging. What are clients telling you? What is the local client telling you? Use that information to actually build what the marketing message is going to be. If you record the conversations as well with the client, it actually makes it a lot easier. You'll be able to understand what those key points are that someone cares about. And again, be willing to experiment in your joint calls together when you go with the distributor or when you're doing a video call. Very important. Also, when it comes to working in their environment, it's also about the processes. So make sure that your processes are working. So find communication times that overlap with the local region. So that's very important in terms of time zones. Translate processes to meet culture. I'll give you an example. We used to do this. Working with one company, we would say 3 months delivery, not including August. Well, that sounds crazy to anyone else who doesn't live in a certain culture. Why don't you just say 4 months? So we have to translate some of those processes and some of those wording to actually meet the cultural demands and don't create frustration. Always have backups available so that people can count on getting feedback when they need it. You want to implement number 5, you want to implement, listen and implement changes. These are really basic things, but regularly gather your distributor feedback, conduct constant listening sessions, and implement the highest impact changes, but with clear expectations. It's not just for you as a supplier to make the changes. You need communication between you and the distributor to make sure that there's clear expectation for the changes that you're making. And lastly, this is actually personally my favorite, is to bring leads to the distributor. Many times people think you sign a distributor contract and you think the distributor is just going to bring everything. I think it's a mistake. I think you should bring your own leads to the client or to the distributor. It's okay if it's free money for them, but you want to keep in touch with the market. You don't want your distributor being the only one who has contact. Why? Honestly, part of it is about leverage. You want to let the distributor know that there's business out there, so that creates something positive. You want to keep them on your mind again. You want their focus, but it also lets the distributor know that you're not leaving success in their hands. Okay, so bringing your own leads, it's a very low cost way to make sure that you're successful in the region without relying on the distributor. Okay, so it really is, like I said, about how you start, making sure that you have these 6 key aspects in place with the distributor, and that's a whole different live stream. Um, but that's really where I wanted to go. I wanted to make sure you have these 6 key points about making things easiest to sell, and that they make them feel like they have the support that they need in order to grow. You can make it very successful. I will leave. We have just a couple of minutes, so not sure if there's any questions. I have to look back at the comment section. Um, I'm going to go over here really quickly. I do have a couple of questions that were sent to me beforehand. I'm going to answer one of them since we have just 1 minute left. Um, Again, if you have more questions, you can send me an email, link.brown@getglobalgrowth.com. One of the key questions that I had before was really about exclusivity. I personally believe that this, first of all, when you start with a distributor, never start with exclusive contract. Um, Start with projects. Just go one by one with projects until you get a good feel for each other. But once you have a good feel and you've mapped out that this is the right person for you, might then at that point, I think there does need to be exclusivity, but it doesn't need to be for the entire nation. It can be by the region. It can be for a type of customer. It can be for a set of customers that the distributor gives you. But you need to give them some sort of assurance that you're going to be committed to them. Very important to do. So that's just one key point that customers that I get asked a lot, and that actually came through in my private messages. So I wanted to just make sure I answered that one. We're at our 20 minutes. I really thank you guys for joining. We're going to have more of these sessions at least every other week, just getting to some real practical things that you can do to implement change and really accelerate the growth of business in your region and for your company as well. Thank you very much, everybody, and have a great day. See you soon.